Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile, the podcast. This is episode 232 called Esther and Avi. This episode is sponsored by Mira. How does Mira help track ovulation? Mira measures actual fertility hormone concentrations with 99% accuracy. Mira is unlike other fertility trackers. It uses technology that's similar to what's used in the fertility lab, so it's just like having your own mini lab at home. With the power of AI, Mira learns about your cycle and gives you personalized and accurate insights about your ovulation and fertility window. And yes, it works for those with irregular cycles and PCOS. Mira syncs your data automatically, eliminating both manual charting and guesswork. Designed to be expandable, the Mira system will also offer more at-home health tracking in the future. In addition to LH, E3G, and PDG, Mira now has the capacity to measure your FSH and soon your HCG, plus other hormones. Guys, that's a mouthful. Order the Mira Starter Kit or Mira Plus Starter Kit online at miracare.com with promo code InfertileAF to get an exclusive discount. Again, go to miracare.com, that's miracare.com, use code InfertileAF, and you'll get an exclusive InfertileAF listener discount. Thanks, Mira. This podcast is sponsored by Receptiva DX. Receptiva DX is a powerful test that has helped thousands of women who have experienced recurrent pregnancy loss or IVF failure. The test helps detect inflammatory conditions of the uterus that might be preventing you from becoming pregnant or staying pregnant. The most common underlying condition of a positive Receptiva DX test is endometriosis with or without symptoms. If you or someone you know has struggled with IVF, Receptiva DX may give you the answer and treatment protocols that you're looking for. Talk with your doctor about Receptiva DX because the journey is so worth it. Plus, guys, InfertileAF listeners are getting $75 off the Receptiva DX test. So all you have to do is go to receptivadx.com or download the app Receptiva DX, use code InfertileAF23, and you'll get $75 off. Thanks, Receptiva DX. All right, guys, I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation today with this really incredible couple. It's NYC-based couple Esther Santer and her husband, Avi Rosenberg. So you know I love talking to couples. I love hearing the two different perspectives that they have. Even if they're going through the same infertility journey, they have two totally different experiences based on what they personally are going through. So today, Esther and Avi are going to talk about that and their feelings. And in particular, they're going to talk about male factor infertility, which was the issue that they faced when they started family building. So it's a great conversation. I want to thank both of them so much. And without further ado, this is Esther and Avi's infertility story. Okay, so I love having couples on my show. You guys might recall I did an episode with my husband, or the 100th episode, but today we were talking to Esther and Avi, and they're going to share their family building journey. So hi, both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
I love it. So I always start at the beginning with couples and ask, how did you guys meet?
My cousin actually set us up. He is Avi's good friend and former roommate. I've taken over since. And he made the suggestion to me, and we actually we went out for a few times. It actually did not work out the first time. And about a year or so later, my cousin asked me if I wanted to go out for drinks and live music. And I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, is it okay if my friend comes? I was like, okay, a little awkward since we went out a few times. So why not? But we ended up hitting it off that night, and we started dating after that.
Okay. So how soon after you guys started dating did you talk about family building and what you envisioned as your future family?
I would say we started getting serious towards the 7-month mark or so. And we're both from religious Jewish backgrounds. So there was always kind of an understanding that there's a big emphasis on family. And we always, we knew that we wanted families, but I'm not sure at what point we discussed, how many kids do you want? I don't know, Avi, do you remember?
There really wasn't a point, I think, that we discussed that necessarily, but I feel like probably it was within our first, probably like towards the third year of dating before we got married. We were like talking about family, right? I'm not 100%. I mean, do you have it like, I feel like it was like our third.
I'm
sure
it would have come up at some point. Like, how many kids do you want? I don't know, but like talking about it seriously, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like on the first date, you're like, so how many kids do you want? Let's talk about our future family. I get it. So, okay. Fast forwarding a whole bunch. When did you guys start to try?
We started to try about a little after a year into marriage. I was on birth control when we first got married, and I actually was like, I don't want to get pregnant right away. I want to travel first. I want to just spend time together first, as a married couple. And then at that year mark, we started talking about it. Should we like start trying? And that's.
So Esther, let me ask you this from a like birth control point of view and like a fertility point of view. Were you brought up to think that it was like pretty easy to get pregnant? Like if you weren't on birth control or weren't using protection, like it would just happen really easily? Because that's how I was brought up.
Oh yeah. I thought it was going to be instant. And it took me like a little while to really get myself mentally ready to go off birth control, because I literally thought the second I go off this, I am going to get pregnant.
Totally understandable. I thought the same thing. Okay. So then what happened when were you like having problems? It wasn't happening, or what was going on with you guys once you did start to try?
I don't remember at what point we started being concerned. The first few months for sure, I assumed it was going to happen and then it didn't, but it was like, okay, no problem. We kept trying. I don't know, Avi, at what point did we start?
It was so like after about like, I would say not even like at the end of the year of trying, it probably was even more like 8 to 9, maybe even 10 months. It started like, well, it's not working. So what's going on? But we just kept on being like, okay, we'll just keep on trying.
I feel like we really started to think that maybe there was an issue. I think maybe by the 6 or 7 month mark, I think so.
Okay.
But we weren't ready to do anything about it just yet. Not that there was anything to do at that point.
Right. So had you seen like a specialist or an REI or anything like that? Or were you just kind of guessing since nothing was happening, like something was going wrong?
We were guessing, and I didn't even want to ask my I would ask my gynecologist, but I didn't want to get tested yet, just because I'm so scared of needles that I just wasn't ready to kind of go that route yet, because I know that the second you get involved in anything fertility related, it's just all needles.
That's such a good way to put it. And you're not wrong. There's so many like tests and blood work and all that stuff. So meanwhile, were you talking to any of your friends, Esther? Like, do you have any close friends or family members who had gone through, having issues getting pregnant or fertility issues, infertility, any of that stuff?
It's pretty crazy, because now I feel like everyone I talk to is like, oh, me too, or I know someone, or
totally
around me. But at the time, no, I actually only knew of 2 people. So I'm a blogger, and one of my blogger friends, she had shared her story publicly. So she was my first introduction, I think, to the infertility world. But her story is obviously very different than ours, since it's just a different category.
Right.
And then I had run into an old friend, like a childhood friend, at one of our mutual friends' weddings. And she started telling me as we were catching up about, she had just gone through IVF and they were dealing with male factor infertility. It was mind blowing. I didn't know much about infertility to begin with. And now male factor, I had never know this was a thing. And she started telling me the statistics. I was floored completely.
So what did she say that floored you the most? Like, what were some things you remember learning about?
I remember her saying 1 in 8, and I believe now it's 1 in 5 couples. I was just shocked beyond. I couldn't believe it. And then also when she was just telling me about IVF in general, it's hard to remember the details because I wasn't going through it at the time yet. So for me, it was her story. And so it's hard to kind of pinpoint all the details, but I just remember being really taken aback.
Okay. So at what point in your relationship, in your story, did you guys decide you actually did want to see a specialist and try to like get to the bottom of it?
At the 1 year mark, we did want to go see someone, but because of my needle phobia, I just was not ready to go there. And I was like, let's just keep trying. Let's keep trying. And so I bought all the ovulation strips you can imagine in bulk, and we just kept at it. But finally, I think another year. So at the 2 year mark, we were finally like, okay, it's time.
Okay. So it had been 2 years. And were you guys getting like frustrated or like feeling depressed? I mean, I remember for me when it wasn't happening, I got into like a very dark place. Like it was just so depressing and I felt so sad.
Yeah, it was really hard, really, really hard, because once we decided that we want a baby, it's like, okay, we want one yesterday. So that's where it starts getting really hard. And then you look around and you see all your friends, and it feels like everyone around you, especially in the Jewish community, everyone pretty much did have kids. And a lot of my friends, like I'm 32 now, like a lot of my friends, they're on their third or fourth, and, you know, good for them. But it was very isolating. I just remember we would go places and we were the only childless couple, which did not feel good. And yeah, it was just, I definitely experienced grief for sure. I wrote a post at one point where I actually wrote how infertility puts you through the 5 stages of grief. And I went through that because that is really what we experienced.
Absolutely. I remember feeling like you just feel so left behind, and it's so hard seeing people getting what you want. And like you're happy for them, but you're so sad for yourself at the same time, which was a hard thing to like wrap my head around. Like I was like, I remember feeling like, how can I feel so like sad, but happy at the same time? Like it's weird.
It was definitely. And 2 of my sister and my sister-in-law both got pregnant while we were going through it, which also made it like, you know, because they're the people I'm the most happy for. I love my nieces and nephews, but it's like, why do we have to go through this? And also the financial aspect that added a lot to it, where I see our friends are buying houses and we're like, let's spend the money we saved for a down payment and let's just like throw it all into IVF.
Totally. You know? Yeah. So did you guys have to pay out of pocket, or was anything covered, or like, what was your situation?
Out of pocket, 100%.
Same. Okay. So then when did you hook up with the doctor, you know, and team that you ended up working with ultimately?
So I had reached after when we were ready to see a specialist, because I only know those 2 people, I reached out to my blogger friend who also is based in New York City, and she gave me her doctor recommendation. And I was like, okay, I guess this is who I'm using because he's good. And I was like, otherwise I'm just going to be going on ZocDoc, I guess. So we had an appointment, and that's who we started seeing. And we were actually able to get an appointment very quickly because it was during COVID. So apparently that wasn't necessarily the norm.
What had you heard about the doctor, and what kind of, you know, like what did you know about once you start that process? You know, seeing a specialist, like, did you have a million questions like I did? Like, it can be so overwhelming, right?
Yeah. So I was very nervous. The only thing I really knew about this particular doctor is that he only transfers 1 embryo at a time. Not that we had any embryos or had done anything to begin with, but I just remember reading reviews about him saying, don't go to him unless you're okay with that. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know anything else. But I tried looking up I tried Googling different, like what happens exactly at the appointment, because I was so nervous about the needle aspect, and I really couldn't find exactly what I was looking for. So I actually wrote all the blog posts. Literally, I mapped it out. Here's how many blood tests I had.
That's so awesome.
So for the next people who are struggling also. But yeah, I couldn't find really what I was looking for. So it was scary.
So what happened when you guys went in? Did they test both of you? I know this is a male factor story ultimately, right? So when did you guys go down that road and start talking about male factor being an issue at all? Or like, what did you just both kind of get tested across the board, or like what happened?
We did get tested at the same time. We weren't allowed to go in together because of COVID restrictions, but we both got blood work the same day. And Avi got, his semen analysis. I got an internal ultrasound. I think that was the first appointment. It was an internal ultrasound and blood work. And the results came back relatively quickly. And they told us unexplained male factor due to a low sperm count.
Okay. And how did that feel to get that diagnosis?
Oh my God, it was awful. It wasn't as devastating as the news of IVF is going to be your only path to parenthood. That was the most devastating day, I think. But getting the diagnosis that it was male factor, at first, I almost felt a little relief, like very minimal, because I was like, oh, okay, then like Avi will do something and no problem. Like he'll take some vitamins. It's all good. So I don't necessarily know if it hit me fully what that meant.
How did you feel getting the, male factor diagnosis?
So I felt, I went through like a ride with emotions in a way. So at first, like I was confused. But then that confusion kind of turned to like anger of like, kind of like, why me? Like, I don't know. It was very much like, I don't know, like we're, everyone teaches you that you get married. And then after you get married, you have kids and like, no one really like talks about all like the infertility and everything that like, that can happen. Like you might not be able to have kids. And I did have a lot of anger, but then from that anger, it kind of turned into, like, I have this issue and let me kind of deal with it. But it made me I felt very lonely because no one talks about it. And after like I spoke about it, I had a lot of friends that like talked about it who were dealing with similar situations. But I didn't know that at the time. And so it is very lonely. And you don't know like, who can you talk to? Who can you not? And it was a little overwhelming, but now, hey, here I am. And I love talking about it. And everyone, like the more and more people I talk to, the more and more people I find out are going through the same exact thing, especially even like male factor.
Yeah. So. It's so true. Like people just come out of the woodwork, right? Like once you start talking about it and you're like, where were you? Why didn't you say anything before? But I'm glad that you are open about it because you're obviously inspiring other people to talk about it as well. Both of you. So what did they say were next steps? Like, what was the plan?
Well, they did it. They wanted to do a lot of tests on me once we found out about male factor. So they were trying to like experiment to see what they were trying to figure out at first what exactly like what was going on, which mine is unexplained. So there really was no main factor, but they did find out that like I have very low sperm count. So they were trying to do like, they put me on different vitamins. They started me on, different types of things to like supplements and things like that to try to, boost my count and everything as well. My testosterone levels were also a little down, and they were able to like see like these different, they were pretty much running tests. And then, Esther can talk about, her part in this, because I know she dealt with a lot as well. Because they were running tests on her as well. In the beginning, they're trying to pinpoint what is going on. So everyone has to do the tests.
Right. Was it ever getting any easier for you, Esther, with the needles, like as you went on, or were you still terrified the whole time?
Terrified. Oh, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to face, just because my needle phobia has been something since I was a child. And the first blood test I can remember is the one I had to do at the clinic. And it was 7 tubes of blood. And I had to do it alone because Avi wasn't allowed in due to COVID restrictions. So I just had the nurse's hand to hold on to. And she was amazing. But I think I really probably hurt her a little bit.
Squeezing too hard.
Yeah, but it was really, really hard to overcome. They were like doing all these things on me, and I don't do well with medical procedures. And it was really, really hard for me.
Okay. So then what happened after that? So now you're doing all these tests, you're kind of getting a diagnosis. Did they tell you like you're going to have to do IVF? Had it gotten to that point yet? Or were they telling you to like change your lifestyle or try other things first, or what were the next steps?
They told us that IVF would be our path to parenthood almost immediately. They gave us 4% chance of conceiving naturally, because at the end of the day, Avi does have working sperm. It's just a matter of our sperm and his sperm and my egg were not meeting. That's our issue. Mm-hmm. So they said IVF is the way to go. And I just had to get mentally prepared, which I was definitely not. Cried a lot, not gonna lie. And I begged them to just let me try IUI. I was like, I have to do something before it was just a lot to go from 0 to 100 like that. I needed time to process. I just wanted to try anything else. So they did say, okay, well, we can put Avi on supplements and we can try to see if that boosts his count. But that was a 6-month process. So I had to also be okay. I'm like, am I okay now waiting 6 months to see if the vitamins are going to work?
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm like anything. And the truth is they did boost his.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But
not by a lot, but it worked a little bit.
We still weren't candidates for IUI because of his count, but they were like, okay, we're going to let you try. Honestly, it was just a big waste of money on my part. And they did a medicated cycle. So I still had to kind of go through that needle aspect. But the truth is, I'm happy that we did it because I needed that confirmation that we tried other things first. And I needed, I think it got me to be in a place where it's like, okay, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
I experienced the stomach injections. It was awful, but I did it. And now I'm going to do it all the way.
Right. Was there anything you had mentioned, the Jewish community, is there anything culturally that you guys had to deal with, in terms of getting feedback from people, or that's not the way this normally happens? Or was it looked down upon? I mean, the answer could be no, but I'm just curious about your experience. What was within your friends and family and stuff in your community? Was there any blowback?
I think it's becoming less and less taboo, but I definitely think when we first started talking about it, it was very taboo in certain places. And it still is. Some people I know are like, what? You can't talk about that. And it's like, no, we are going to talk about it. And we're going to continue sharing our story because it's important, but it's almost, some people think it's like a hush hush because it's a private thing between husband and wives. But I don't know, most people were very supportive and understanding. A lot of people shared their story in return. But I think the hardest part with infertility and the Jewish community is just that there is such an emphasis on having children, on having families when you're younger and just married. And it was hard. We definitely felt very left behind, like you said before. And just now we're considered kind of older parents, which is a little hard to swallow.
Right. I'm sure like you said, some of your friends are on their 3rd and 4th at this point. That's really hard. What do you think, Avi? Same question. Did you experience any blowback from your friends or family or anything like that?
So not necessarily, but it was so how Esther said, just right now, it was kind of why are you talking about this? A little bit, people were kind of shocked because they don't really talk about it. I mean, now they're a lot, obviously now there a lot more people are talking about it. And it's becoming a lot more common, but at the time it was very much you don't really talk about this. And, my parents definitely were more old school. So they were why, they took them a little bit to come to terms with it. But other than that, from my friends, actually, I had a ton of support because like I said before, actually I found out that a lot of them, have dealt with, this as well.
Yeah.
So
was your experience too, Avi? Because I love talking to guys that are going through this. Were you guys how was it in terms of talking about this when it was just the guys together?
So it was actually very refreshing.
Oh, good.
Because they everyone has everyone deals with infertility in their own way, and everyone has their own issues. So some people could be sperm count. Some people could be like they have just no sperm. Some people can just, they need a surgery. But like everyone kind of deals with the same whole beginning process. So when you're all like talking about it, it's like you feel very validated because everyone, discusses their experiences and you're like, hey, I had kind of the same experience. And like, it was very refreshing to be able to like talk about it amongst other guys. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. This summer, HelloFresh has a whole bunch of chef-crafted seasonal recipes, plus their new Fresh and Fit summer menu. It's peak time for summer produce, and HelloFresh makes sure you get all the best picks all season long. Their ingredients travel from the farm to your door in less than 7 days for quality that you can taste. HelloFresh gets it that you want options when it comes to what to make for dinner, not just the same thing all the time. That's why they offer 40 recipes to choose from every single week, so you'll never get bored and can always find something new to try and love. I got my most recent HelloFresh delivery just in time because I've been in a total cooking rut. Trying to think of things to make every day and night this summer has become a chore, and I don't want to rely on restaurant delivery. Thankfully, HelloFresh's recipes like prawn and chorizo paella, warm Mediterranean vegetable and chorizo pasta salad, and roasted sweet potato and ginger garlic tofu stew arrive just in time. By portioning everything out and providing step-by-step instructions, they make it super easy, so fast, and also pretty fun. So here's the deal. Go to HelloFresh.com/InfertileAF50 and use code InfertileAF50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/InfertileAF50 and then use code InfertileAF50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Thanks to HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And now, a brief word from one of our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Avi. Avi is the obvious choice in health and wellness supplements. Their products range from collagen for your hair, skin, and nails, to weight loss solutions, to immune support, to hormone balance. Avi has more than 400,000 customers worldwide and has a Facebook community with over 65,000 active members. So guys, I got a box full of Avi products recently and I added them to my daily routine. One of their products that I want to talk about today is called Goodbye, and it's my new fave. So here's why. Avi's Goodbye is the perfect solution to hormonal balance issues, which include weight gain, hormonal acne, hot flashes, and so much more. Goodbye contains key ingredients such as DIM to help regulate estrogen production and KSM66 ashwagandha to help you feel relaxed and stress-free. And I must say that since adding Avi to my daily routine, I've had more energy and a clearer mind. So guess what, everybody? I think you guys can probably guess. You've probably heard enough of these podcast episodes to know that Infertile AF listeners can get 25% off today with code INFERTILEAF at myavi.com. That's myobvi.com. Use promo code INFERTILEAF and you'll get 25% off today. It's super Avi why you should do it. See what I did there? Let Avi help you reach your goals this summer. Again, go to myavi.com and use code INFERTILEAF for 25% off. Thanks, Avi. This episode is sponsored by True Earth Laundry Detergent Eco Strips. True Earth's mission is to help reduce the billions of plastic household containers that end up in our landfills and oceans every year. They currently have household products to make your chores easier in the laundry room, the kitchen, and the bathroom. So a few weeks ago, guys, I got True Earth Laundry Detergent Eco Strips in the mail, and I got the fresh linen scented and the fragrance free. And on my next 2 loads of laundry, I used one of each kind. Okay, so I'm not exaggerating when I say that I am obsessed. These True Earth strips are smaller than the size of your hand, and all you do is take one out of the package, toss it in the machine with your clothes, and it makes everything come out fresh and clean and soft. They're so easy to use, and I honestly don't think I'll ever turn back to like a big jug laundry detergent again. Let's talk about the packaging. It comes in a super compact recyclable paper envelope, and each one contains enough for 35 loads. To see the True Earth package sitting next to my giant plastic jug made me never ever want to use anything but True Earth again. Think of the impact it has on the environment And if people weren't using all of that plastic, I know that so many of you are into clean and toxin-free household products, so please know that True Earth is paraben-free, phosphate-free, free of added dyes, free of chlorine bleach, vegan, no animal testing, hypoallergenic, and readily biodegradable. It's also really travel-friendly. I could go on and on. So here's the best part. You can try True Earth today at true.earth/InfertileAF and use code InfertileAF to get 12% off your order. Again, that's tru.earth/InfertileAF and use code InfertileAF to get 12% off today. Thanks, True Earth. That's awesome. So I don't know if you guys know, I have Fertility Rally, which is a membership community too. And we just started a couple months ago, a Rally Guys group, like a support group once a month. And it's been so cool to have, to be able to offer that. And we've had guys, come, we actually had it last night. And we have guys who host it, who've been through this and or are in the middle of it too. And I think it's just really great. Like one of our hosts last night said, some of the guys were like, we couldn't find a group that allowed men, so I think it's getting easier to find places to talk about.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's making a huge impact in that way also, just because, at least from my end, I hear people say all the time that he's helped them.
That's so great. That's so great. Okay. So then what happened next? So you're going down the IVF path. It's happening. How was like the first round and everything like that? You don't have to talk about specific numbers or anything if you don't want to, but any info you're willing to share.
So our doctor originally said that it will most likely be 1 cycle per child. So that's kind of where our heads were at. Who knows what will be, but he ended up being surprised that I got more eggs than he expected. And I'm not sure in terms of sperm count, if it was better or worse than he expected, but whatever it was
neutral. It was neutral.
Okay.
There was no more and not really any less. It wasn't.
We ended up having a successful cycle though, which was really relieving. And it was hard though. It was, going through the motions. Avi gave me all the injections, which he actually, he had a really fun time doing, because he wanted to be a doctor. No.
Were you good? You're good at that, Avi?
What?
You were good at that?
Yeah, I thought I was really, really good at it. Well, Esther, how'd you feel?
I mean, he's an EMT too, so I felt like I was in good hands.
But it was quick and easy.
Yeah.
It was good, yeah, and fun.
That's
For me, at least.
That's amazing. I love that. Okay, so then did you get to transfer with that round? Sorry.
Yes, we did transfer and we were successful. First embryo transfer, which was just so unbelievably exciting. And it's one of the reasons I'm scared to go back into it, because I don't know if this is going to be how it is going to be in the future, because now it's okay, yeah, we got this, no big deal. I could just do that again. But it's no, now we're back in the unknowns, but it was the best surprise ever when we found out it worked.
Tell me about the 2-week wait, or however many days, you had to wait. What was that like? And did you test early or anything, or were you waiting for the actual blood work at the doctor's office?
It was the hardest wait.
Well, you tricked me.
I did. So our clinic tests on day 9, I believe.
Okay.
Whatever the exact date is. But when Avi brought me to every single appointment, regardless that he could not come in, it was just his way of showing support for me. So he had to take me in for blood work, and I didn't tell him that this was the pregnancy test.
Oh my God. Good.
Standard. Because I was I don't want to lose everything from infertility. I still want to surprise my husband, but it was really, really scary for me, because I'm if I get that negative, now I'm kind of in it alone, and he's going to be wait, what?
Oh, right.
You got tested, So it was definitely a little bit risky on my part, but I went in, and then I went home after getting the blood work, and waiting for that call was it was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever experienced. But then I got the call. And
yeah.
God, I just started crying. Oh, because she said, I don't remember the exact words, but whatever she said, it was successful. And I just, I was over the moon. And then I
got the chills.
Yes,
I just got the chills because I still remember getting that call too. But I remember I went in for blood work really early, and I was the same as you. I did one round of IVF, and thankfully it was successful that first round, which I didn't realize at the time was so incredibly rare. And I'm so thankful that it happened that way, because we only had one embryo and that was the only round we were going to do. So I do have my 7-year-old son now through that. But I remember when I did the blood test and she's like, okay, now go home and take a nap and we'll call you later. And I was like, nap? Like, I'm not going to be able to go home and go to sleep. Are you crazy?
So this is actually kind of, I forgot this happened, a little bit crazy story. When I was waiting for that phone call, I actually got a call from my clinic like before the call came. And I assumed, oh my God, they're calling me already with results. This was maybe just literally right after I got home. And I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I answered, and she was, I remember she didn't sound happy on the phone. She's like, you can come up now. And I was like, what? I can come up now? Like, I'm home. I just left. Like, you need me still? And she just kept saying, why did you leave? And I'm so confused right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I left before the test was over. And then I don't know how it happened. It was so weird, but she, I guess, got my number confused with someone else who was supposed to come up to do her IUI.
Oh, and God.
Literally like a mess, because I'm like, oh my God, she doesn't sound happy. Clearly it failed. And I left early and I don't know what's happening. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. You're like, thank you for giving me a heart attack. And then, okay. So then you did get the call. So tell me about the next couple days. Like, were you feeling like, okay, it happened, we did it, we're here, we can relax now? Or did you have the pregnancy after infertility anxiety that so many of us have, where it's like, you still feel like you can't really relax because you're so used to getting like bad news and things not working out?
It was the worst anxiety of my life. I waited for that second beta. Oh my God. It was, but even after the second beta, and it was positive and everything, kept going up, and I was constantly, doing the blood work every week. And I would literally go home, even when they started doing ultrasounds at the clinic, before you switch over to the OBGYN, and I would have an ultrasound done, and then I would go home and start tracking symptoms and be like, Avi, do you think I'm really pregnant? Like, what do you think?
Totally.
Had an ultrasound, and I'm like, no, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. Did you understand the anxiety, Avi, or were you like, since it's different, men and women, the things that we go through, like, were you understanding why she had so much anxiety about it?
Well, yeah, I understand. I mean, it is nerve-wracking every single, appointment that you go to. But I had no idea at the time about, that, it worked.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was such a gruesome process, like just everything, like the doctor's appointments, the early morning appointments. I think there was even a few times we went twice in one day, and, we live in Queens, and then, but we are, we had to go to the city like every single day. And it was just, I just remember it was like waking up at the crack of dawn, getting there. And, I used to wait outside for Esther, or sometimes if it was for me, the appointment, and she would wait in the car. But yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was, but like, I really can't, I guess I really can't remember. Yeah. But I remember it was very nerve wracking. I totally understood the anxiety that she was having. Yeah.
Completely. I was living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn at the time when I was going through my treatments and had to come into Manhattan. I remember those like 6 a.m. train rides coming in every morning. And it was just like, like people were coming home drunk from the bars, like it was like such a weird cross section of people on the subway at that point. It was a dark, dark time for me. But so, okay. How did the pregnancy go as it progressed?
The pregnancy was very smooth. Thank God. The regular nausea in the first trimester. But honestly, I know full-heartedly that IVF and infertility prepared me for pregnancy, because I was so scared of pregnancy to begin with, just thinking about the blood test. And it's so funny because I used to talk to people. So how many blood tests do you actually need to get through pregnancy? And people were like, oh, maybe you could get through it with 2. I don't know. And that was all I had focused on previously, and obviously giving birth. But now it was kind of like, okay, like no big deal, whatever, I can do this. And it prepared me so much. And I had so much gratitude also from it working. And I was just over the moon. I was so, so, so happy just all the time.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any scares along the way or anything like that? Or was it like pretty smooth once you got, past a certain amount of weeks?
It was pretty smooth. I mean, I would scare myself all the time, like, oh, I don't feel him. Okay, let me, start dancing and playing music to get him to move. But thank God there were no actual scares. I had a very, very traumatic birth into an emergency C-section, 3 days of labor, and just everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Really?
But again, yes. But IVF really prepared me for it. It really did. I don't think I could have gone through it. The 2 epidurals, the C-section, just the recovery. It was brutal, to say the least. But I had that gratitude that got me through it. It really did.
What did it feel like for both of you to hold that baby in your arms after everything you guys had been through?
It was just surreal. So I was pretty much unconscious, like when I don't remember meeting him, but I do remember waking up in a recovery room and looking over, and there is a bassinet with my baby. And it was,
oh my God,
really, really weird.
Mm-hmm. Did you think you were like dreaming?
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. I'm just like, oh my God, there's a baby next to me. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But yeah, like holding him, it was just unbelievable.
What about you, Avi?
So yeah, it was, it was pretty crazy. Going back to the labor part, it was also brutal for me, but I can't really talk about that.
No, you can. You can.
Well,
talk about it.
I didn't have to deal with giving birth. So personally for me,
but listen, this is still your baby, and it's still, you're a part
right.
of it. So we got to validate what you went through too. It might've been traumatic for a certain, you're worried about her, you're worried about the baby.
No, mine was really just more of lack of sleep, but no, it was
that
just
makes sense.
The doctors, she was they kept saying we should do a C-section, but I remember Esther kept saying you didn't want to do a C-section.
Well, they wouldn't tell you what to do.
But the doctors wouldn't tell us what to do. They kept making us make the decision. And then, Esther was barely speaking, and she wasn't really she didn't either know what to do. So it was just a very stressful time. But then after we had the baby, so then they I got to cut the cord, which was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. Also a little it was really cool. It was really cool. It was a crazy experience. And then I kind of got to hold the baby, and I brought the baby over to Esther. It was barely awake, but you were your eyes were open. You acknowledged the baby was there, but it was a very, very cool experience. It was crazy. I mean, it was very emotional also, because it was here I'm holding my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then afterwards, when Esther came to, it was great. I mean, he latched on right away. So Esther didn't really have any issues with that. And he was just, it was a crazy moment.
Yeah.
Avi, you had mentioned to me that it was kind of hard for you to become a parent kind of by yourself, because I wasn't there really.
Because you were out of it. Yeah.
I really wasn't sure what to do, but the doctors and nurses really helped me out, where they kind of just took him from me. Mm-hmm. So, because she wasn't there, and she was out for another few hours after that. But they just handed me the bassinet and said, here's your baby. We're going to wheel you into this room. And I really was no idea, what to do or anything. And they wanted to, I remember Esther wanted to do skin to skin. So I did request for them to do that, right away. Actually, right when they took him out, I actually had them I brought our baby over to Esther and put him on by her neck area, because she was in for the C-section, she was kind of most of it was all covered, and there was tools and everything on her. So But I remember I put him on there, and then like about an hour later, like even though she was pretty much out, I had them do skin to skin with her because I know she really, really wanted to do that. And yeah, it was really, really great. Yeah.
That's so cool. So how did you come up with his name? Tell everybody his name and how you guys came up with it.
So
please.
his name is actually, so in Hebrew, his name means like a gift from God or given from God. So because of the trauma that we went through and through, the whole experience that we had in our whole journey, we named him, Nathaniel, or Nathaniel for that, because of the meaning behind it. So
that's really cool.
And we call him Nate.
Yeah. So how old is Nate now?
He just turned 18 months. So we've got a little 1.5-year-old.
It's crazy. So you guys are in it. You're in it right now. Yeah. So tell me, how did you guys become such big advocates? And like, when did you decide that you wanted to really start speaking out about this and be so public about your stories?
I can't remember at exactly what point I was like, okay, I want to share our story. But I do know that when I was really in the thick of it, I had my fake Instagram account where I just followed all the infertility accounts like yours. And
you're being a creeper.
Yeah, totally. I was one of those. And it was a safe place because, totally. I have public Instagram and it's filled with, all the highlight reels and the baby announcements, etc. But then I had this safe place where I could go. And I remember that the people's stories that impacted me the most were the people who were going through it, not the people who are like, I had a baby and by the way, I struggled. That is impactful too. But for me, it was more impactful when someone was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
Totally. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I could just relate to that. So I remember we had just started IVF. I was literally like doing injections and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to post it. I'm just going to share our story and I'm going to tell people like, this is where I've been. This is what I'm doing. I don't know if it's going to work, but this is where we're at. And the response was just insane. Just hundreds of shares, hundreds of DMs. And at this point, triple that or more, just from people who are now finding our story and seeing that video, my initial video. But once I saw the impact it made and once I saw the response, which most of the response is really offline, it's people messaging me personally, just thanking me, especially wives who are like, I'm suffering in silence because my husband won't let me talk about it. And that's fair. It's two people's story. But so many women are just like, thank you for being a voice for this and raising awareness and making it less taboo because they can't share publicly.
What do you think it was about that initial video that you mentioned that just connected with people so much?
I think it was just real. It was from the heart and I just like put it out there. And I just think people resonated to that. It wasn't trying to be anything than just share the struggle.
Well, I feel like also part of it was that people don't share their story and people do really suffer alone and they feel very alone. And I think when they saw someone else that they know, oh, like, look at this, Esther just put out a video like, oh my God, she's going through the same exact thing we're going through. And I think that really like kind of resonated with people and it makes you feel a little less lonely in the world. The more and more people you hear that are going through the same thing. Because I know that's when like with like people that I spoke to, like other guys, I remember like that's one of the things that like, the second I started talking about it, everyone else started talking about it. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone, was when like, all of a sudden everyone else is talking about it. And it's 1 in 5 couples. I think that they say now it's 1 in 5 couples. So it's very, very common, a lot more common than people, expect it to be.
Definitely.
The amount of people who, when you start to talk to them and they just respond with me too, it's shocking. And I'm talking about even close friends of mine who neither of us knew that we were each going through it at the same time.
Isn't that wild? Well, I'm so glad that you guys are speaking out. Again, thank you for sharing your story. Before we wrap, I want to ask each of you to answer, what do you wish you knew then that you know now just about infertility and going through this whole process, that hopefully by sharing that can help people who are listening, who are in the thick of it, who might be feeling really overwhelmed or alone?
So personally for me, I feel that I wish back then I knew about all these different groups out there and like different types of, like Fertility Out Loud, different types of, support groups and just places you can go just to like talk to and just, ask like you have there's so many questions in this process, this journey that everyone goes through. And I think that that was one thing that I really would have loved to know when we in the beginning were going through that. And now, like, I tell everybody, I'll tell people, go on Fertility Out Loud, go to their website, or go to this, this place over here, go to, there's so many different places out there now that talk about these types of things. There's so many different support groups, whether you're on Instagram, Facebook, regardless of wherever you are, there's so many different, there's so many people going through it that there's enough, you're not alone, and that, there's, and that people can you can pretty much reach out to almost anybody, and people, will like talk it out with you, and you can vent to them, and you can, you have a question about a drug or this or that, you can discuss it with other people, and you're not alone, So that's definitely something that I wish, I would have known in the beginning when we were going through it.
What about you, Esther?
I wish I had known the statistics. I think I felt very blindsided, and I believe knowledge is power. And even if that didn't mean that I would get tested before we were having issues, but maybe I would have gotten tested sooner. Maybe I would have, I don't know, like we dated for 3 years. We were not in a rush to get married. We didn't really consider family planning in anything. And I wish we just had a little more knowledge.
All right. Thanks again to Esther and Avi for sharing their story. You can definitely follow them on social. I will put all that info in the show notes and also on my social media. So if you're not already following me at Infertile AF Stories, please do so. And you can find it all there, and some other really great bonus content and photos and quotes and things like that. So also, guys, please check out Fertility Rally if you're looking for somewhere, a safe space to land. It's the place I wish I had when I was going through it. As you know, I started this community with Blair Nelson in 2020. We've grown exponentially, and we're so happy to have so many people in our Rally fam, and we're always up for welcoming more. So we offer curated content. We offer multiple support groups per week, and even more coming this fall. We offer IRL events. We have a big event in August in Chicago where we have got like 20 something people meeting up for a whole weekend full of bonding and empowerment. It's going to be amazing. So if you want to be a part of this, we would love to have you. You can always DM us. Our DMs are open. So follow us on Insta at Fertility Rally. Check out our website at fertilityrally.com, and my DMs are open as well if you have any questions or want to see if it's right for you. We have all sorts of people going through all sorts of things, so it probably is right for you. We don't call it the worst club with the best members for nothing. We would love to have you. So check out Fertility Rally. And thank you, as always, for listening.